You know the face. You know the war paint. You've probably even shouted, "Freedom!" at least once, after watching Braveheart. But how much of what we saw in that iconic 1995 movie actually matches real history? Spoiler alert, not much. Today we're diving deep into the real life of William Wallace, the man who helped ignite Scotland's centuries-long struggle for independence. And trust us, his true story is just as dramatic, if not more so, than anything Hollywood dreamed up. Let's set the record straight. In Braveheart, Wallace is shown as a rugged, humble peasant, raised in the dirt, driven by love and vengeance. But the historical record tells a very different tale. William Wallace wasn't a poor farm boy. He was actually part of the lesser Scottish nobility, not quite royalty, but certainly not a commoner. According to some sources, his father may have been Sir Malcolm Wallace of Elderslie. Others suggest it was Alan Wallace of Ayrshire, based on a seal from a letter William himself signed in 1297. Now, here's the problem. Our most well-known account of Wallace's early life comes from a poet named Blind Harry, who wrote his version of events more than 150 years after Wallace died. And let's just say, Blind Harry loved a good story, whether it was true or not. So while the exact details of Wallace's upbringing are still debated, one thing is absolutely certain. He was far from a simple peasant. Now, Wallace may not have been a peasant, but he was a brilliant tactician, and the Battle of Stirling Bridge proved it. In September 1297, Wallace and fellow leader Andrew Moray faced off against a much larger English force, possibly outnumbered 3-1. But Wallace didn't rely on brute strength. He used the terrain. He chose a narrow crossing at the River Forth with a flimsy wooden bridge. Only 2 English knights could cross at a time. Wallace waited patiently, and when just enough of the English had crossed to be vulnerable, he unleashed his attack. It was a masterclass in strategy. The bridge turned into a trap, and Wallace's men wiped out a large portion of the English army. It was the kind of win legends are made of, and it turned William Wallace into a national hero almost overnight. But no warrior's record is spotless, and Wallace's biggest misstep came at the Battle of Falkirk in 1298. After the stunning victory at Stirling, King Edward I of England, also known as the Hammer of the Scots, returned from his campaign in France with a massive army and a very personal grudge. Wallace responded with a scorched earth strategy, burning crops, destroying villages, and denying Edward's forces the resources they needed to survive. It was clever. It nearly worked. But then Wallace got confident, too confident. He chose to face Edward directly, on the fields near Falkirk. Wallace used schiltrons, tight circular formations of spearmen, to hold off Edward's feared cavalry. And for a moment, it looked like it might work. But Edward had a secret weapon, Welsh longbowmen. The hail of arrows broke the Scottish lines, and Wallace was forced to flee. After Falkirk, he resigned as Guardian of Scotland, and for years he faded into the shadows. In the film, Wallace is betrayed by none other than Robert the Bruce, or rather, his father. It's a shocking twist, sure, but it's completely false. In reality, the man who betrayed Wallace was John de Menteith, a Scottish knight who handed Wallace over to the English in 1305. By then, Wallace had spent years evading capture and had even travelled to France, pleading Scotland's case at European courts. But when he returned, he was caught. And what followed was one of the most horrific executions in history. Dragged through the streets of London, Wallace was hanged, drawn, and quartered. A punishment so gruesome, it still chills the spine today. His body was cut into 4 parts, and sent to different cities across Britain, as a warning to all who would dare resist. Here's a twist for you. William Wallace wasn't even Braveheart. That name. It actually belonged to Robert the Bruce, the man who truly completed Wallace's mission. After Wallace's death, Bruce led a relentless guerrilla war against English forces, culminating in the legendary Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, where a smaller Scottish army crushed the English. In 1320, the Scots penned the Declaration of Arbroath, a powerful letter asserting their independence. And finally, in 1328, England officially recognised Scotland's independence. When Robert the Bruce died a year later, his heart was literally removed from his chest, placed in a silver casket, and taken to the Holy Land by his knights, symbolically fulfilling his dream of joining the Crusades. That's why he, not Wallace, is the true Braveheart. Here are a few quick facts about the real William Wallace. Wallace was fluent in Latin and possibly French, a clear sign he had a formal education. He once led a successful campaign through northern England, raiding as far south as Northumberland. His personal sword, according to legend, was over 5 feet long, the stuff of medieval nightmares. And despite his death, Wallace remained a powerful symbol of resistance, inspiring Scottish nationalism for generations to come. William Wallace may not have shouted "freedom" on a battlefield while wearing blue face paint, but his fight and his ultimate sacrifice lit a fire that changed Scotland forever. Yes, Braveheart gave us a legendary movie, but the real William Wallace? He gave us something far more powerful, a story of courage, cunning, sacrifice, and the never-ending pursuit of liberty. So next time you watch Braveheart, enjoy the drama. But don't forget the real history behind the myth. Like this video? Then show it some love, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold history stories, and drop a comment below. Who do you think was the greatest Scottish hero? Wallace or Bruce? Let's talk.